A controversial casting of a teenage heartthrob, a reset of a franchise that crashed heavily after a promising beginning, a director best known for a split-story tale centered around memory loss. It's difficult to say that anyone could have predicted that a new venture into the world of Batman would be such a success. It would bring a much-lauded trilogy and create waves in the industry that are still felt nearly 2 decades later. And before we find ourselves moving any further forward, it is time for the original Batman film series that began in 1989 and dominated the film industry through 2 successful sequels, 1992's Batman Returns and 1995's Batman Forever, unfortunately found its demise in a 4th entry, 1997's Batman and Robin. Over-the-top scenes and imagery, a second recasting of Batman, a villain-heavy semi-plot that left no room for true character development, the movie was less about the story and depth that any one character would need, and more about flash and cash. Even some of the biggest names in Hollywood couldn't save a fan base that was exhausted in what their beloved Batman and Gotham had become. The failure was enough for a massive big-screen retreat from the incredible stories that lie in the pages of countless comics. A retreat that lasted almost an entire decade. Fast forward to 2005 when massive rumblings about a new Batman movie coming that summer. Was the world ready? Was it still too soon? As fans could still sense the bitter taste of cheesy one-liners and absolute injustices on Rogues Gallery favorites? The answer? No, it was not too soon. But also the world may not have been ready. With a film that is often credited to be one of the pioneers and examples of a reboot, Gotham was reset. Wayne Manor was something new. Bruce Wayne / Batman was in the hands of a master of their craft. In 2005, Batman Begins. Fans around the world embraced a new telling of the origin story. A dark Gotham, a broken, lost, brooding Bruce Wayne trained at the hands of Ra's al Ghul himself, only to part ways as the two had different ideas on how to handle the world and Gotham's concerns. And Gotham's concerns? A city gripped with literal fear induced by a chemical designed by Dr. Jonathan Crane, aka Scarecrow. Batman is faced with an immediate challenge in stopping Crane from destroying Gotham, only to find that the backbone of Scarecrow's operation was none other than Ra's al Ghul. Bruce must now face the true face of his enemy, risen from the dead through trickery instead of an ancient pit. Only, it turns out that one can't always truly cheat death, as Batman emerges victorious knowing he won't kill, but he doesn't always have to save others. Bit of a gray area there, Bats, but what do I know? A sequel immediately went into production with rumors of a Joker performed by Heath Ledger and a Harvey Dent, aka Two-Face, by a fairly unknown Aaron Eckhart, led to yet another bout of uncertainty. Could a former teenage heartthrob really have the chops needed to handle such a heavy role as the Joker? The answer? More than yes. From the opening scene to the very end, Ledger's Joker drives every single moment and action of the story, bringing the only thing he ever desires: chaos. Devastating Gotham's largest crime organization, manipulating those sworn to protect into those willing to kill, even turning Gotham's White Knight, Harvey Dent, into the villain Two-Face with no one able to stop them but Gotham's protector, the Dark Knight. The second installment into the Dark Knight trilogy became not just one of the greatest comic book superhero movies, but one of the greatest film stories ever told. And thus, a third was born. A new threat from a masked mercenary and mastermind of a criminal underworld, Bane. Bane comes with a mission for Gotham to atone for its sins, for the corrupt to have their day of reckoning. And reckoning happens. In a loose adaptation of the No Man's Land storyline, Gotham is cut off from the outside world, with a threat of nuclear destruction thanks to a weaponized reactor core stolen by Bane and hidden in Gotham. With the police trapped underground and a Batman that was broken by Bane and left in the prison he escaped from, Gotham had no protector. I was wondering what would break first, your spirit or your body? Fortunately, the answer was Bruce's body. His spirit helped him recover, escape, return to Gotham, amass an army and a cat, and defeat the villainous but organized league that had overtaken his city. With a final, seemingly sacrificial effort to save Gotham, the Dark Knight rises. These 3 movies told gripping, gritty stories that always remained in a realm of realism, telling the world that this could be possible. Comic books could be reality. The influence of a dark and gritty world reverberated and became the basis of all things DCEU, for better or for worse. Nevertheless, director Christopher Nolan and 3 incredible casts gave the world 3 timeless stories and one of the most iconic characters and perhaps the most mimicked Bat voice ever. And now, thanks to the team at McFarlane Toys, fans get to add some of these iconic characters to their shelves and collections with a new wave of amazing representations. Hey everyone, my name is Jonathan, aka JK of JK Collects, and in this episode we are taking a closer look at the McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse, The Dark Knight Trilogy, Build-A-Bane Wave. I'm Batman. And here he is, Joker, number 2 of 4 of the Build-A-Bane collection. Let's flip him around to the back here and take a look. And we see that the Joker comes with the head and the hands. So 3 different hand selections for this Bane Build-A-Bane figure. Down there at the bottom, our selection of cards and the why so serious, that typical Joker statement. So let's take a look over here at this side. We've got the Joker and the Dark Knight Trilogy in that typical McFarlane font. And then up there at the top, we've got the Dark Knight Trilogy logo. But let's flip it over to this other side. And we've got that side window view of the Joker. There's our QR code for the DC Universe Infinite. Let's bring it around to the front. There is our Joker with his stacks of cash, which is a very interesting ad as far as, you know what, let's look at an exploded view of this one. Boom. There's our Joker figure. There is the stack of cash that comes with him. There's our typical stand and the why so serious card. There is the Bane accessories, so the head, the 3 selections of hands that we have. Let's bring it back into the box. And there is our front presentation, as always, laid out very nicely. But again, this is not the way that we came to look at this figure. We came to look at it in a closer look. So without further ado, let's bust into this one. And here he is, our McFarlane Toys, the Dark Knight Trilogy from The Dark Knight, the Heath, we'll say legendary Joker, right? And this figure definitely does it justice. It's exciting to see McFarlane Toys diving into these amazing representations of these characters, these amazing stories that were told that were iconic, right? They changed the industry for quite a while, and you can still see the repercussions of all those changes. But we're here to talk about the Joker. Let's take a closer look at that face sculpt. Look at that thing. What a fantastic job. Look at all the details in it, right? So the wrinkles in the forehead that definitely showed through, right? Sorry to call out Mr. Ledger on that one, but you know, the wrinkles in the forehead, they were a big part of the makeup, right? It made it look more raw. It made it look more natural instead of, you know, the Joker always being that very clean, clear presentation of a criminal, right? A psychopath. But this definitely helped sell it. And the way that they managed with this sculpt and with the paintwork, they sold it, right? So the shadowing around the eyes, the black, and the way that it bleeds through into some of the quote-unquote wrinkles or crow's feet, whatever you want to call them, on the face, because this makeup stays on throughout the day, right? So it would run, it would not be perfect because he doesn't care about that. And then the around the lips, the mouth, and into the scars. You want to know how I got these scars? So there we go. I mean, just an excellent sculpt, excellent paintwork, and it's that faded white, right? So it's not all the way white through, and especially when you see it in person, into the wrinkles, a lot of the skin tone shows through, and up there around the temple, some of the skin tone is showing through, and of course up there at the top of the hairline. Speaking of the hair, look at that amazing sculpt work of that, right? It definitely gives that semi-curly appearance that Heath Ledger's hair naturally had to it. They did a great job with the coloring, right? So it's got the brown underneath, and then it's got the green paint highlighted to it, because yet again, it's something that gets applied, whether it's a dye or whatever it is, and it washes out, it runs out. He's not too worried about that. In what we get from the character is just to do it, to have the imagery, and then just let it be what it stays and what it is naturally after that. So there we go. And then here we've got a neck that is attached. It is part of the torso. So we have that ball joint flexibility for excellent articulation side to side. Up and down. Up, I'm not optimistic, right? Because we have the curly hair, which creates a pretty thick mass back there, and then it hits the collar of the coat. But down, definitely a much better performance on that, right? So we've got chin to chest on that. But let's see, can it do Yes, it can. With little to no resistance, the full Exorcist rotation, so good. And then underneath, let's see what we have. Can we see underneath? Okay, so the lapels of the jacket are kind of fixed to this, right? It seems like it might be one piece. It's all the same type of material, the flexible rubber type material. So it is part, yeah, it definitely is part of the vest. You can see I accidentally peeled some of mine up right there. So we can't really see through that. Let's see what we can through here. Do we have butterfly joints? It's kind of tough to tell. It doesn't look like we do, actually. Yeah, so no butterfly joint in there for the shoulder, but that's okay because we do have good rotation. It does move back pretty well regardless, despite that. And then we've got bicep, tricep, full rotation on that with little to no resistance. We've got the double elbow, which helps with that flexibility. Boom, he can touch his own shoulder, his own trapezius. We don't have the forearm rotation, which is typical, but we do have that wrist rotation and the capability of the McFarlane wobble, thanks to that typical joint that we get right there. Okay, and the other arm has that same articulation. We just have a slightly different hand. This is a weapon holding hand because he is the Joker, and the other one is a fist. I digress. Here are the mid-torso, right? So we do have quite a coverage here, right? Something that's going to get in the way as far as movement and articulation, because that is one big rubbery plastic piece, but it feels like, you know, it doesn't feel like there's a lot underneath here because it is very squishy. I think we're just dealing with the plastic skeletal joint. So he does crunch forward fairly well. Back is also not bad at all, even with the coat potentially getting in the way. That is not a bad backwards arch. And then of course we have waist rotation, and the good news of that is we have all of this stuff in the way that would cover any potential gaps that would show up, but there's not really anything under there to create a gap. They took advantage of the fact that the costume can cover the fact that there is no real torso underneath that based on the squishiness, and that gives good flexibility. And then we have, oh yeah, look at that. Even with the coat, we have a Joker split. Look at that. He just looks so calm about it. So there we go. Yeah, full on. And that is that typical McFarlane joint that we see for the upper legs. We do not have an upper thigh, but we do have that double knee. And that has excellent flexibility as well. One thing that I noticed on this is the second Joker I've done here recently, and the joints are different colors, right? So you can see the knees are a darker purple. They're a different shade of purple than the rest of the pants. I do appreciate the lines in the pants, right? So it's like that corduroy, I think is what he was wearing maybe, but it does give that impression through it, and I like the wrinkling through here. We don't have a calf rotation, but we do have foot movement. We have that typical joint in there, but the bottom of the pants, the cuff, is kind of getting in the way of some of the rotation capability, and the forward and backward are also kind of impeded by that. We do have that toe articulation, and if we try hard enough, you can have at least an ankle sprain, even if it's not broken. And then the other leg has that same flexibility and capability. Paint apps, nothing really to call out, right? We already saw how the head was so masterfully done. And we have this golden chain here, which is, it's just an excellent looking chain hanging down. And I like the way that it's made, right? So it is, as you can see, very flexible, very chain-like. It might still be plastic, but it definitely kind of, it doesn't not feel like a massive golden chain hanging down. I like the way that works. It's not stiffer plastic like the coat's made out of. It is still that rubberized plastic, and it is very flexible, but it is, again, that rubberized plastic. So it looks like it would be great if there was a way to get all of this removed, and man, how cool would some cloth goods be there? But that might be a little bit of overkill. May not be necessary. I'm gonna say it's not necessary for enjoyment of the figure. I think they did a great job with it. So if you get a chance to pick this one up, definitely do so. It is an excellent representation of this Joker and of the Heath Ledger character in general. Well, that about brings us to the end of this dark and brooding episode. Thank you for taking the time to join us. Now, if we ever do a review of something that you are trying to find for yourself, please follow and DM us on Instagram at JKCollectsToys so we can help with the search if we don't already have a way of getting one. Also, if you enjoyed this episode, let us know in the comments and let YouTube know by subscribing and clicking that like button. The more that happens, the more it helps the channel because YouTube will recommend us so we can hopefully reach even more people and collectors and help them find the things that they need. And if you'd like to see some more videos, we do have some links on your screen for you to check out. But above all, as always, collecting or not, we are all in this world together. Let's look out for each other. Thanks.